Call to order at 6:32, the Board of Education meeting, February 14th, 2023. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. And are there any amendments to the agenda? I'm sorry, were you ready?
I do have an amendment.
You take your time.
If you take a look at the policy section, it has 3 policies listed as a second read for tonight, but those policies were actually approved as our last meeting. So I think we could take those off the agenda.
So it's physical activity. I have it right here. Physical activity, food antigens, child abuse, and
Staff possession.
We're keeping.
That's the first read.
Yeah,
The other ones were listed as second reads, but they were approved.
the
as of
memorandum
last
to
meeting.
model policy clients.
We don't need that either.
Okay, so do you have that, Deb?
So we're keeping what?
So we're just keeping staff possession and personal use of wireless communication as a first read.
Okay,
And then the others, all others listed are already approved.
so that's the only policy we're actually talking about tonight.
Not even talking, it's a first read, unless people have questions. Yeah,
Right,
yes.
yep.
Any other amendments to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we can move on. Roll call, starting with Vinnie, please.
Vinnie Cannadella.
Shelley Capsula.
Debbie Sherman.
Stephanie Miller,
Nicole Levine McCrath.
Dick Tomporowski.
thank you. Board corrections for the 10, January 10th, 23 corrections.
So I'll make a motion to correct the January 10th Board of Education minutes.
Oh, is he going to turn that fan off? I hope. Maybe that
Yes.
door. I think he might be. Oh, thanks, Vinny. Maybe when the fan's off. Let's see.
Vinny's in the closet, never coming out.
Okay.
We could shut
Testing. Is that better? This is actually more for the owl. It's not really to project our voices. So we'll just try to speak up. Can you hear this? If I'm like this, okay. You're welcome. So we are making amendments to thank you, Alex.
I made the motion.
You made the motion. Did somebody second it?
No.
Second.
Second by Shelley. So
So
our discussion, go
Our
ahead.
vote count was not listed, so I just went in and I made the adjustments. You'll see in the minutes, they're bold. The corrections are bold. And we'll just date them on the top that they're approved as amended as of this board meeting.
Okay, so let's just go through.
But if you say in the approval minutes, that still isn't bolded.
Okay, that's
Okay, yep.
for the December 13th.
January.
January 10th.
No,
But for the
approval.
December 13th
Yep,
meeting,
okay.
yes.
I'll make that change.
Thanks.
Can you explain that to me?
So it says we're right here.
Right. Oh, for December 13th.
Yeah,
Okay,
for the
gotcha,
approval of the
gotcha,
minutes.
gotcha.
So we
All
just
right.
need to put the
Thank you
vote
so
count
much.
in.
Okay. And then bold those. So you went through and put all of them in.
Yes, except that one.
Let's just go through, make sure. Motion carries. Motion carries. Okay.
I got them all.
Yeah. All right. Any further discussion on changes to the January 10th, 2023 minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose or abstain? Corrections carry. Board of Education meetings, January 24th, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Second, well, if you have corrections, well, after it's,
Okay.
we could correct them there. So second, Vic, want to second that?
Second.
So corrections,
If you look through, all the vote tallies are missing again.
On the same thing?
124. Let's look.
All right.
24, I highlighted.
So let's
Okay.
remove the, let's rescind the motion and then I'll fix them and I'll do them for the next time. We'll do it the next. meeting.
Okay, so we make a motion to rescind the motion.
Motion to table.
So go ahead, Deb, you make that
Motion
motion.
to rescind the approval.
And then second, I think, do those have to be
Yeah.
seconded by the same person?
Second.
Motion to table the January 24th minutes.
Then we just said that.
No, we rescinded.
Oh,
it.
now,
This
but
is
I
the
didn't do
motion.
all those in favor. So
Oh,
you have to, so going back to that, all those in favor,
Aye.
opposed or abstain? Motion carries. Now we can do yours.
Motion to table the January 24th minute.
Good. Second, see, Mike's not here.
I know it.
Somebody-
Okay, Vinnie,
Something in.
second. Any discussion?
No, I'll make the changes.
All those in favor,
Aye.
opposed or abstain? Motion carries. And then how about the January 31st?
Oh, motion to approve the January 31st,
Do those have the same issue?
2023.
Just
Those
one
are the-
initial is wrong.
Second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Second, thank you. Any discussion? All those
Who
in favor?
seconded?
I'm sorry, Vinnie. Don't put Mike, just put Vinnie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstain? Motion carries.
Now you know why I'm not doing minutes.
Yes, but you do a fantastic job. Audience of citizens, if you'd like to speak to the board, just come right up, give us your name and address and tell us what you want to talk about.
My name is Christine Bavone, 9 McIntosh Drive. I'm a parent of a middle school child. First, I'd like to talk about reestablishing the posting of the honor roll. Reading the honor roll used to be something that parents, grandparents, and even students used to look forward to when opening the local newspaper. Unfortunately, the honor roll disappeared from the Oxford School District and is now in tiny print and an electronic report card. I emailed the superintendent on why Oxford School District no longer posts these honor rolls. I was shocked to find out that according to him, most likely it was no longer posted due to safety issues. Safety issues for posting a name, grade, and if the student earned honors or high honors. He noted that if we can get parents' permission to sign a waiver, we may be able just to list the student's first name. We could consider doing that. I replied back that we already signed a media release form as part of Power School. I think that this policy of safety is a poor excuse. Other school districts have no problem posting online with full names. Ansonia, Derby, Seymour, Holy Cross Waterbury are just to name a few. I would like to look into returning to this previous tradition. On the academic side, I want to give a few points about iReady. iReady testing at the middle school, I believe, in my opinion, was a disaster. The extra amount of time that was required as homework on top of their already heavy workload was ridiculous. The constant pushing of this test on the children, in my opinion, was having the opposite effect. You should probably be asking yourself why the test scores were so poor to begin with. Was it the curriculum, remote learning didn't work as expected, or is the test flawed itself? I don't know, but when the 7th grade class are yelled at during testing week because they're either not taking the test fast enough or they need to do better so I could show better test scores is uncalled for. I have yet to see anything done at Oxford Middle School. Bullying, vaping, vandalism, poor bus behaviors. We constantly receive emails from the administrators lecturing us to talk to our kids about good behavior. But what is happening to the known disruptors in that school? Is bringing the Boys and Girls Club going to solve that problem? I don't know. Are you going to force families to pay the $200 a month to hope that these problems during the school hours magically disappear? I'm disappointed with all the recent motions and policies that this Board of Ed and the superintendent have been making. Schedule changes, possible shared buses, and school start time changes with the middle school and the high school. Our district is losing principals, teachers, and staff, but we are told it's normal. Show me the data of surrounding districts that are having the same problem with losing educators during the school year. School district morale is low. That even includes the students. There are students, including my son, who used to love school. They no longer want to go. While you continue to pat yourselves and Dr. Miller on the back for a job well done, I beg to differ. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else would like to address the board? If you have a loud enough voice and we can hear you, then that's,
Can I just talk in a really loud voice? Is that
Sure.
loud enough?
sure.
Okay, so my name is Tracy Rose. My address is 21 Punch-Up Road. For those of you who don't know me, I am a staff member in the district, but I'm speaking specifically regarding my son today, who's in middle school. So, and I'm here to talk about iReady as well. Specifically the iReady homework policy. So I do think iReady is a really good program if it is used the way it's intended to be used. I think it's worthwhile. I think it's beneficial. I just don't think we're really using it that way right now. So my son is a 7th grader. He's almost 13. He's busy after school. He has sports. He has extracurricular activities. He has a 504 for gifted and talented. He's in the enrichment program. Last quarter, he had straight A pluses across the board. I could not ask for anything more in my son academically. However, he's doing iReady homework. It can take him an hour and a half, 2 hours a week to do this homework. His fall test scores were great. When he took his winter test scores, they went down. After all this homework time, his test scores dropped. So I'm not really sure what the emphasis on doing all this homework has really done for him as far as the testing goes. He's burnt out from being on the computer so much. He already has homework. He has quizzes and tests to study for. He has other things that he's responsible to do, but they have to complete a minimum of 30 minutes per subject, reading and math, but they also have to complete a lesson during the week. So a lesson can take him 45 minutes, an hour, longer. It can take a long time depending on what he's doing. He is also, what he's doing right now, it's hard to quantify for reading because it's hard to know that level, but for math, it's not grade level curriculum. He's doing algebra on math. He's in 7th grade. He hasn't been taught algebra yet, but because his test scores were high, he's given work that's not really grade level curriculum. So I'm not really sure how that falls in line with the homework policy, which I'll quote says, it's also the policy of the board that any imposition of homework should be related to the curriculum goals and standards recognized as appropriate for the student's grade. So what he's doing is stuff he's never been taught before. He's teaching himself on the computer and hoping that he gets it right. He also, from what I understand, kids who score really high on the test kind of have nowhere to go. So they plateau or they drop because there's really nowhere for them to go. But with the emphasis being on improving your scores, what's the lesson those kids are being taught? They don't have anywhere to go. So now they're kind of feeling like they failed because his scores dropped in both reading and math this time. So he didn't have anywhere to go. His scores dropped, and now it's kind of looks like he's failing in what he's doing, even after all those hours of iReady time. And like I said, he's teaching himself, he's getting frustrated. He has no teachers to ask when he's doing it because he's home, doing it at home, not in school. So again, I would just say I think it's a good idea to rethink this policy. Is it really doing what we intended it to do, or what the board or Dr. Miller, whoever instituted it, intended it to do? Like I said, I think it's a good program. I don't think it's being used the way it was intended. Kids should be doing it with access to a teacher, so when they have questions, they can ask. When they're not sure about something, they can get help on. I really think that's all I have to say. I just don't think it's meant to be done at home.
Okay, I just want to clarify that iReady is not a policy. iReady is not a policy. There's no
Okay.
policy that,
Okay, well, when I say policy, I mean the directive, because it's, I believe, a district-wide directive. That's what we've all been told from administrators, that it's a district-wide directive that students have to do a minimum of 30 minutes reading and math, that it came from the district. I don't know who the district is when they refer to that. but then they have to do a minimum of 30 minutes of each, and specifically.
A night, 30 minutes a night?
No, 30 minutes a week. But in the middle school, they also have to complete a lesson during that time frame, and however long it takes you to complete a lesson, you're working on iReady for that amount of time. So for example, if it's a super hard math lesson that takes my son an hour to complete, he's working on that iReady lesson for an hour for just math alone, on top of all his other homework he's being assigned. So that's the policy as it's been told to us, and the kids are graded on it. If there was one time he didn't complete a lesson, he got an F for his homework now. So,
Okay.
well, while it might not be an actual policy, it's the direct.
I just wanted to clarify. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
By the way, I see that some of you are speaking from notes.
I'm sorry.
Sorry,
That's okay.
I see that some of you are speaking from notes. Would you be able to provide us with a copy of your concerns at some point in time?
Oh, sure. I mean, I just jotted down some notes for myself, so I can keep my thoughts.
I just can't take notes that.
Yeah, that's fine.
my way.
I don't mind
Okay.
sending you
Okay.
to just your specific.
No,
email,
no,
or-
it would be to Stephanie, the chair, and she'll share with the rest of us.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else like to address the board?
I'd like to.
Hi, Pam.
Pam Aldridge from 584 Chestnut Street Road. I just wanted to ask, first, hello, I haven't been here in a while. But first of all, I just want to tell you some of the good, great things that are happening at the high school. We had the Hope Club visit the senior center yesterday, specifically for the heart. Basically, they painted some ceramic hearts with the elderly. I have to use the right word now. The elderly, and they were, before I could say no, I guess we're going back again.
Good.
Because they asked the students to come back and do something springy with them, which works out great as long as we go after school because of the buses and everything. The students provide all their own transportation and everything during this time and make time for the citizens of Oxford. So I think that's a true Oxford way of doing things. Also, we're bringing back that district-wide art show,
Mhm.
and that's going to be March 6th and 7th. And that's going to be a big thing again to bring our district together. And the thing that is on my mind about the school system is the Board of Ed moving? Are you guys moving out of this building?
We're talking about it.
Okay, because I just don't, I thought when you guys were planted here, because of the dollar signs that it cost us to rent, because I don't know if anybody remembers back then, when we moved into Tommy K Strip on West Street, it cost us tens of thousands of dollars, actually, it's up over almost $80,000 to move in. But that wasn't the rent per month was closer, by the time we left, it was closer to almost $9,000 a month, $8,000 a month. I don't have all the numbers, but isn't that a silly way to spend our taxpayers' money?
We're not going somewhere where we're going to be paying rent. And actually, the plans have not been, finalized yet, but it will actually be a cost savings.
So, I mean, we had people walking through the schools and before we knew anything about, I was almost awed by the fact that we wouldn't stay in a historical building of Oxford. And I questioned it, and I was like, I didn't understand why we moved from, this should be our home, I think, because it's the oldest educational building in town. And it represents education in this town. Granted, our landscape's gone in the back, and another part of our history is gone, but it would be nice to keep the connection to the school as an educational part of our building. I don't know the political move, I don't know any of the true stories behind it. Some people are saying this, some people are saying that. I'm caught in the middle of the limbo, but I do have a heart for the school. You look at the history of it, I believe that education is here. It started here so many people in Oxford. And I would like to see it stay instead of moving, or I mean, even in our buildings, like when it came across that people were walking through the buildings to look for a new room for the Board of Ed. Still, you know, it's like, I don't understand, is there some place that we have to go to the town and say, I don't know how much cost effective it is? And pick it, or storm a meeting and ask them, you know, why would it be more cost effective if you move it again? You know, it's sad that we lose staff over and over again, but now we're moving buildings from all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there's, you know, yeah, absolutely. It's in the works. There's nothing that's going on, you know, there's nothing changing here. There are committees that are formed because of ARPA funds, and there's ideas of how to utilize this building. And, you know, that hasn't been finalized yet. So, you know, there's anything that you hear that there's any controversy, there's any problem, you know, we're not renting, you know, we're just, you know, looking into maybe trying to find something that works better for us, may or may not. And it is going to actually be a cost saving, and it will also benefit, I'm not going to get into the details, but it will also benefit the kids. So that's all I'm going to say at this point.
Yeah, I think it just needs to be clearer, like it was like.
But nothing needs to be, the thing is, Pam, and this is the issue that we have, like, I can't be clearer now because there's no decisions. So the point is that people see things, they start saying things, they start rumoring about things, they start putting things on social media. So we will be clear, transparent, you know, we'll give you all the information when we have it, but you know, right now, that's where we are. There's no political. There's nothing political. Yes, we are in the research and planning stages. And, you know, and the other thing is, you know, as far as a board and as far as Dr. Miller, you know, I would say pretty consistently, there's nothing that we don't do that doesn't benefit children, benefit the school, benefit the district to our best of our ability. So, I mean, I can make that pledge and stick by it. So,
All right, thank you.
thank you. And thanks for everything you do, Pam, honestly. Anyone else? Hello.
Jennifer Wallach. How are you? Hi, hello. All right, I just wanted to touch base, because I have some concerns. I used to be part of this district at one point as well. I still have a lot of teacher friends who work here for now. We'll talk later. I just wanted to bring up some concerns. There is, to your point, a lot of talk and chatter and social media going around about the BOE moving and the possible displacement of classrooms and students that may come into play with that. I think people have concerns. They feel like they're not in the know, and that can be upsetting. So I'm glad you guys are aware of that, but I think you also have to look at things from a parental point of view. And I don't know how many of you still have kids in the school system, but I know not all of you do. So that's a concern. I really have concern about the number of teachers that are leaving. My son is in middle school and hasn't had social studies teachers since I think the end of September. I'm thankful that he's doing well in his social studies class, but I know some of his friends are not, and I know the grades are not being inputted the way they're supposed to be. I understand this is an issue. I understand that Power School is a pain in the butt. I actually worked on Power School a lot when I worked in this district, but I can tell you that the lack of finding substitutes or finding a permanent sub or a permanent teacher for my son is concerning for me. He loves school. He, unlike my other ones, is my smartest kid, which is exciting for me because I haven't had a smart kid yet. So in spite of not having a teacher, he is doing well, but I know that there are concerns. And I have concerns about that he's not receiving the social studies curriculum. As I know, social studies greatly impacts English. And as he moves up into high school, those two come into play and are intertwined.
And can I just stop you? So You know, we need to know this stuff, absolutely, but I assume that you've already brought this to the
I've talked to the
School
the
admini-
I'm not super, sorry. the teacher-
administrator,
No, assistant principal or principal about
Okay.
grading and things like that.
but have you talked to them about your concerns about the lack of stuff or social studies or?
I talked to them about getting the grades and that my son was getting very frustrated when for the second, I'm sorry, or the trimester, whatever they are. He had one assignment in for the whole semester and it wasn't his best grade, so he was upset. So I did talk to them.
Okay.
I did not talk to them about finding a new teacher. I do think that was, we might
Sure.
want to consider our pay scale or substitute teaching scale or something like that, or how we're working Power School to work those things. I also wanted to bring up that there's also rumors, I'm sure, as you know, and I don't know how true they are, that teachers may or may not get cut as a result of some issues between the Board of Ed and the superintendent, and fields being pushed between the Parks and Recreation Committee and the Board of Ed, and how that's gonna work. I am a member of the Park and Rec Commission, and I know in the past few years, there's been ownership of fields going back and forth within the district. I am concerned about teachers being let go if the Board of Ed is going to become responsible for those fields. I have big concerns with that as a member of just the community. And don't get me wrong, I love taking care of the fields and I love volunteering. But I just want to make sure that I feel like people aren't playing nice in the sandbox, and that's why we're having a lot of problems. I'd also like to bring up that I think it's very important, and I appreciated this in my last district as well as when they did it here, as ALICE training. If safety is such a big concern and we can't put the kids' names in the honor roll thing, how come our teachers haven't been newly trained on the ALICE training? We've had a large number of teachers that have come into the district. And ALICE training, I felt my experience with it was extremely positive and made me as a teacher feel empowered. And I think it would be helpful if our teachers could feel the same way, especially in a time when they don't feel empowered. Because morale is so poor. So I appreciate the fact that you guys know a lot about what's going on behind the scenes and have an understanding of how parents feel. And I understand social media can help us and hurt us at the same time. I know it's a double-edged sword. But I think people have real concerns, and that's kind of where it's coming out.
So as I sit here, if I tell you and I tell the parents and I tell people who are listening that there is no conflict between the Board of Education and the town, then is that, because there is no conflict. And people have, contacted the superintendent and he has told them that there's no conflict. So I'm not sure what else we can say except to tell you that there is no conflict between George Temple and the Board of Education, or the municipalities and the Board of Education. So that you can take that for what it's worth.
I guess we'll find out, right?
No,
If-
there's nothing to find out. There's
fields
nothing.
End up being an issue, it's gonna end up coming out. Like,
Okay, well,
we're gonna end up having problems with teachers.
The-
That's my understanding.
yes, go ahead. Well, I'll just say one more thing. The fields are owned by the town. So you don't have a back and forth of who owns the fields the fields are all owned by the town, just like all of the buildings are owned by the town. And then it's a matter of who is going to maintain them or so the Board of Education pays for the utilities, the plowing and everything for our schools. So then it's really just a matter of, when you think about it, it's all coming out of the same bucket. So whether Parks and Rec takes care of the field or the Board of Education takes care of the field, that's a budget issue. So, so that's where we are as far as that's concerned. Go ahead, Deb.
On the issue that you raised about staffing and all of that, our biggest problem is going to be what number comes back from the Board of Finance,
Right.
regardless of the fields. Because we can sit here and we do it all every year. We put forth a budget that meets the needs of what we need to do in this town, and then we get cut. We get, 1%, 2%. It's never enough to be able to move us forward.
Happens in
So-
every district. It's
so-
awful. I know,
Not every district.
for most.
It happens here all the time. So when it comes time to have all these town meetings, the Board of Finance meetings, is when people should be paying attention about what's going to happen, because once we vote on the 28th on our budget, there's nothing that we can do. It goes to the Board of Finance. They make those decisions. We end up by having to fix and make changes based on what they do. They don't hear from the community to say, you know
This is what we want.
This is important to us. You need to, respect the Board of Education's budget or give them some portion of what they're asking for that's greater than 1%, then we're never going to get ahead. So that has nothing, anything with dollar amounts is more about our basic budget, not necessarily the fields.
I appreciate that. I understand.
And Dr. Miller isn't here because he's not feeling well, but he said that he personally revised the Alice training with new teachers during their orientation session in August. So
What about the previous teachers? Is there?
I can't, I'm just telling you. So, maybe, he's listening, so I'm sure
I know.
he'll get back to you and, can tell you, but you seem to be thinking that no one's been doing anything with Alice. I don't know if you have specific people who are saying they haven't been trained, but it's something that is still being done, and orientation and
That's
teachers
great,
are
because I think
now
it really empowers-
renewing and, I'm not sure. I can't speak to that because I just don't know.
Well, that's good. I appreciate hearing that, because I do think it empowers teachers
Hi,
and
Mike.
helps them get a better feeling of safety. And it's
Yeah,
when-
absolutely. And it was a huge investment to do that. So it shouldn't go to the wayside.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to address the board? I'm sorry, I didn't hear your last name.
Brushy.
Are you?
B-R-U-S-H.
Oh, brushy. Okay, thank you.
So I'm speaking to you today, not only as a mom of a middle school child, but I've also been an educator for 21 years. So I am concerned with the way iReady learning is being utilized in the middle school. The purpose of iReady is to provide personalized instruction and support the needs of all learners. iReady learning allows for teachers to plan instruction, set goals with students, and differentiate for students based on their individual needs. However, this is not how it is being used in Oxford. Instead, students are required to complete 30 minutes of math and 30 minutes of reading a week for homework on top of their other homework assignments. Students are not just required to do, students are not just required to do 30 minutes each week, but they must finish a lesson in each subject. This could take a child more than 30 minutes to complete, adding even more time to his or her homework. Students receive an A if they complete it or an F if they don't. These assignments are not being used by teachers to plan instruction, nor are they helping to differentiate work in the classroom for students. When I asked the principal about the purpose of completing these assignments for homework, I was told it was for students to increase their personal growth and achievement. My child has not increased her personal growth or achievement by doing these assignments. Instead, she has been stressed out at home over having the added homework and has watched her iReady scores go down. My child is not a student who struggles. However, if she were, she should be receiving intervention services, not being thrown on a computer for an extra hour a week. That isn't the best method to increase personal growth and achievement. If you want students to complete lessons on iReady, they should be given time in school to complete them. This way, teachers can use the data to differentiate and plan instruction, which is the goal of iReady. I also think it's important to look at the current homework policy. It's very vague and it needs to be uniform. So one team in 6th grade can have a ton of homework while the other team in 6th grade has no homework. So I know that in my district where I teach, we have a guideline that states the amount of minutes each homework should have. So 1st grade should have this many minutes, 2nd grade should have 20 minutes a night, and so forth. So I think it would be very beneficial to all of the children in Oxford to look at that policy and make it more uniform and more specific. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. What district do you work in so we can copy?
I'm humble.
We like their policies.
For 21 years, they have some great policies.
They do.
Very happy to share.
We've used a couple, so
Yeah.
we like them very much.
Very
So,
successful.
thank you.
Anybody else like to speak to the board? Hearing none, we can move on. Get my, okay. Audience of citizens, is there any board correspondence or communication?
None at this time.
Thank you, Mike. So we have our mid-year reports. So this is OMS, but I think that's goes. So we should we amended that? So go ahead, Heath, you're up. Heath, can you just, I know, but can you just, I didn't hear what you said.
I said, I understand there's concerns.
Uh-huh.
That need to be addressed. I said, we still have room to improve it, to how we utilize iWriting both as an assessment tool as well as an instructional.
Okay.
But that being said, I want to share a little bit of information on the other side of it.
Gotcha.
How we utilize iWriting to successfully.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Realize it.
Sure.
Something to move back ahead.
I got your back.
So, I guess the first thing is that most of my report, and I believe Rachel's report, will focus on our most recent winter iReady administration and in comparison to our fall results. We are thankful to the Board of Ed and Central Office for continuing to provide us this resource. We will touch briefly, or I will touch briefly on a few other items that are related to the GOES School Improvement Plan.
Heath,
And I'm going to try to keep this.
can
to
you talk
15.
into the microphone? People on online can't hear you. So,
Yeah. It's for,
Just get closer.
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
Am I good here?
thank
it's,
you.
like I said, it's more for the OWL
Okay.
people.
So I'm looking to spend 15 minutes going through the report that you have in front of you. The first page is just kind of technical. You can see that our enrollment is stable and consistent. There's also a copy of our most recent student activity account for your consideration. And if you turn to page 2, there's a laundry list of events and things that have been happening at the school. Basically, if you look down through there, you'll see that there's a continued return to normalcy, an increase in celebrations and social activities. I also want to point out that there's some efforts when it comes to the business end of things. When we start thinking about how to refine and get back on track with our pacing guides, our assessment calendars, how we're delivering efficiently and effectively our support services, and attempting to provide differentiation for all learners, whether they're challenged learners, high achievers, or anywhere in between. So that kind of summarizes what is in the first 2 pages. I'm not going to read it for you bullet by bullet, but if there's any questions with regard to the items on those first 2 pages, I'm open to that at this time.
I don't think so.
Okay. So I just want to talk about the diagnostic test just for a minute. I just want everybody to understand the test is always, whether we administer it in the fall, the winter, or the spring, it is always based upon end of year results. So yes, we are asking 4th graders at the beginning of 4th grade to take a test that's going to measure their proficiency against the standards at 4th grade. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. The test is untimed.
Say that again.
Can I ask, because that's been clarified to us on many occasions and we get a different answer every time we go for clarification, that those, at least from the last time I was updated on how it works, it's at that moment in time, not where they need to be at the end of the year. So if you're saying that it's different, you know, it'd be nice to just collectively get an update on this iReady, because we were told it's measuring at that moment in time across the board, like let's say across the nation, the state, and so on, that it wasn't end of year expectations.
So it's a yes and yes answer. So the third part of it that I said was untimed, the third bullet after that is that it's computer adaptive. right? So a student goes in, they answer the first couple of questions, it determines can they stay on grade level type questions? Do they need to, does the rigor need to be lowered or increased? And they go through the test and it keeps wavering. They come out with a rating as to, are they at grade level and above grade level? Are they within a year of grade level, 2 years of grade level, 3 years of grade level? So the test adapts, but the end result basically says, yeah, they're in the grade level ballpark, or they're below, or they're above. So the answer to your question is, the expectations to be at grade level are consistent and end of the year. Bottom line is, if the kid can't get there, or the student can't get there, they will be rated at below grade level, 2 grade levels below, or 3 grade levels below. The expectation is by the end of the year, they take that test for the final time. The computer adaptability takes place, and that's where we want to see kids performing at grade level. And what you'll find is, if you look at the data across time, is you'll find that at the beginning of the year that you'll have approximately a third of your students performing at grade level, a third of your students performing a grade level below, and a third of your students performing at those 2 and 3 grade levels below. A third seems to be the number. Even when you look at SBAC scores, a third of our population is above grade level, a third is at, and a third is below. So if you think about it, a third, that's kind of where we start the year. By the time we get to the mid-year or the winter, we're looking to be more 50 to 66%, halfway to 2/3 of students at grade level. And then at the end of the year, we're looking for as big a number as possible.
I know we're not at the bar charts and all that yet, but looking at the amount of improvement, I've never seen anything improve so much from fall to winter. Okay. I mean, it's 2% to 47% or above grade. I've read iReady over everything I can on the internet. I have to agree with the parents that in theory, it seems to be an ideal way that they can grade and teach. But these reports are, like, to me, unbelievable. I mean, after we just had 3 parents say, my kid's overdone and his scores just went down and he was in the upper part. And these all say, Eureka, we made it. We're doing fine. I don't believe it. And this is slicing and dicing everything so finely that no one can understand exactly. If Mike can't figure out when is it valid? Because every time we talk to you, it's valid at another point in time.
Victor, I'd like to go through the report and
Sure, go
show
ahead.
you some of the successes that iReady is attached to, because it's not me, it's not anybody in the district, it's the state of Connecticut standards that are determining the levels of success when it comes to student achievement and growth.
Yeah, I understand that. The state of Connecticut is like COVID. It's a shield that we always hide behind. We got new courses coming down and new criteria is coming down that probably won't have money and funding in a year from now. And it's just tiring to hear it's COVID. Now it's the state. Well, the state is worse than COVID. Go on. Thank you.
Just a quick question. iReady is not SBAC, right? So the state, she said the state doesn't tell districts, and I'm asking, I assume that they don't tell districts what assessment to use in order to measure your students, because we used to have STAR, now we have iReady, so. And I think we're waiting to see what I think people are working on to see what the correlation is. But, so when you say the state, you don't mean that the state is telling us to use iReady? Okay.
No.
Trying to follow.
No, I mean,
They
no
do
matter whether it
report
was
the
MAP or
results
STAR,
on
NWA,
Edcycle. It's part of the.
or iReady.
No, I was going to say, sorry, let me unmuffle. So, I happen to be talking to Abe Chris from the performance office. Sorry, can you hear me? Okay, bad throat day. So they've updated the 2016 accountability guide, and they talk about the ways that scores are to be reported, the way that SBAC and to some degree iReady the use of the scale scores and how those are related to standard or error of measurement. And then they talk about the need to make sure that we're talking about scaled scores, but you know, I'm going to let Heath talk, and then I do have a few questions. I just wanted to say that when Vic was talking about the state.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Thank you.
So just a little context for the information we're going to look at, starting on page 3 and 4. You're going to see bar graphs with regard to iReady scores that go from left to right. The 2 left bars are students that are at significant intervention levels, 2 or 3 years below. The middle bar set of bars is students who are within 1 year, and the right 2 bars are students who are in the ballpark of being at grade level or above grade level. We're going to talk a little bit about growth. You're going to hear the term typical growth. And basically that's looking at a student who has a particular score. So let's say you've got a 4th grader that's got a scale score of 400. They compare every single student in the nation in 4th grade that got a scale score of 400, and they determined what the 50th percentile is. So if a student makes more than 50 or more, the amount of growth, then 50% or more of the students in the nation that got a 400 in 4th grade, they're considered to have met their typical growth. They also give us a stretch growth where they're saying, no, not better than 50% or more, but better than 80% or more. So when we're reporting out, we're talking about the amount of growth that they're making compared to like peers, like scale scores across the nation. So I just want to kind of clarify what that's looking at. We're going to talk about usage a little bit, and you've heard middle school talking about requirements per week of 30 minutes. iReady recommends, suggests, in order for their learning pathways to be successful, that students average 45 minutes in math and 45 minutes in reading. What I will say is that we are looking for students to utilize that time in the classroom during classroom-based centers that may be part of the curriculum. Maybe it's during time they finished something and they can do some individual practice, and maybe it's some time at home, but it is not tied to homework, and it's not tied to grades, et cetera. We're trying to find ways to meet that 45 minutes in a way that makes the most sense. It's not the end all be all. We're gonna, if you take a look at the pages 3 and 4, you can kind of see our building level results in reading and math. The thing that I would point out there that I didn't spell out in text is if you look at the cohort comparison, which is the multicolored graphs at the bottom of page 3 and bottom of page 4. That's looking at last year's 2nd graders who are now this year's 3rd graders. How did they do in 2nd grade last year? How did they do in 3rd grade this year? So in reading, just doing the math quickly, our 3rd graders improved by 23% of students at and above grade level. Our 4th graders went down 17%, and our 5th graders went up 11. So I'm just trying to demonstrate that we can track growth across time for the same group of kids. And it's not the exact same group. You got a student that moves in or moves out, et cetera. If you look at the page 4.
I'm sorry, before you go to the next page, can I ask a couple of questions? Well, you're on page 3, right? I saw you flip, you're going to 4 or?
Yeah, I was just going to comment
okay,
on math.
yeah.
Those same percentages are there. And
Sure.
I can.
Thank you. And I appreciate that in the following pages, both of you reported on the domains. So thanks for that. So one of the things that jumped out at me, and I'm not a math major, believe me, is I do see some progress according to the bar graph, right?
Yes.
And but it was concerning to me that this bar graph says also, although it wasn't listed at the bottom, that 35% of our students in the elementary school are 1 to 3 grade levels below. And that I found concerning. And then when I looked at it in more detail, it seems like we have the same 1 to 3 or 4%, 3 I think was about the average, that are still hanging at the bottom as time goes on. And then the folks at the top are still hanging on. And I think that where I saw the most growth was the middle of the bell curve, as you put it. And so I'm concerned that we have the top, and I don't know the answer to this. You can answer it after. I hope that those kids that by this report have already met their stretch goals for the end of the year and even their regular goals for the end of the year by this testing, that we're offering them some kind of challenge to keep them moving. And on the other end of the spectrum, our kiddos that are well below, that percentage keeps, hanging on. And I tried really hard to track it from, when the kids were in the fall and then last year as much as I could find. We just seem to have that 3 or maybe 4% that are hanging down the bottom 1 to 3 grade levels below. And then, and it's not just Heath, I'm talking to both because I will not, bug both of you, but you can both jump in at any point in time. So I find that a bit concerning. I realize it's only mid-year, but it is very concerning to me that we still have mid-year 35% of our kids in reading that are 1 to 3 grade levels below. And again, the top and those that are struggling the most, when I looked at things over time, those kiddos seem to be top staying there, most struggling staying there. And I kind of found the same thing on the math. I know you didn't go there yet, but I'm going to ask all my questions and then I will try not to interrupt you again. But when I was looking for these baselines, for instance, their scores in the fall, I did find some of them in Dorothy Potter's report, but I'm sorry. I had a really hard time looking at fall grade 3, say math and reading in the initial data report from October 22, and then looking at this information and trying to figure out what's the baseline here with regard to, these kids started out in the fall. I'll just give you an example. So in the October report, the math cohort grade 3. So if you look at fall 2022, it correlates nicely with yours, Heath, the 2%, et cetera. But then there was a one below of 58%. But when I looked at yours, and you know what, redirect me if I'm looking at the wrong thing, please. I see in that case where it says one grade below, the percentages just don't align. For instance, like I said, fall, according to the big data report from Dorothy, 58% were one below in the fall. And then when I looked over here at your nice bar graph, 1 grade level below was 34%. So I'm trying to figure out, how this tracks across time, but I couldn't make the numbers align. And to that end, just as a comment to the board in general, I went through every single presentation from the very 1st of September to the present date. And I tried to find, and maybe Deb knows the information, and I looked in the shared drive, I looked everywhere. I tried to find information, for instance, when you were talking about having met their target growth. I'm assuming, and maybe you're talking about something different, but I'm assuming you're talking about where they calculate what the expected growth is for each student based on standard error of measurement and their initial performance and so forth. Maybe you're talking about something else and you can let me know that. I just had this other question beyond sorry, I need to go to the other page for your math, I beg your pardon. But when I was adding up the percentiles, again, guys, I'm not a math person, so all you math whizzes jump in and fix my calculations at any point in time. So when I added up the percent across the board in the blue bars, they equaled 101%. When I added up the green bars, it added up to 99%. I'm just looking at the reading your whole.
That's probably rounding. That's probably a rounding.
Well, I'd be interested to see because, you know, I went out to the iReady site and I tried to look it up and so forth, and I could not find information about rounding and how they generated their data. And maybe, you know, to your point, Mike, you know, when you aggregate the scores, you do lose a lot of information. And granted, this is, you know, aggregate for the school. And so maybe that's somewhat different than the initial grade level reports. And I could certainly flip to that and it'd be a better correlation. But so I'd be interested in those several things. You know, what are we doing for our 35% of our kids in your, well, by this report in your school that are 1 to 3 grade levels below in reading as of now, not, you know, earlier. You know, and we know there's some, you know, summer regression. And then the kids at the top, you know, what are we doing to meet their needs if they are already at their stretch level? You know, back in my ancient days, we used to call it flexible grouping. I know that term's coming back in vogue a bit, and I know that, you know, teaching in general, we're asked to do more with less. And I appreciate that, but, you know, and you don't have to answer that question today, but I would be very interested to know, what are we doing for those ends? And then the last question is, I don't know where all of the baseline, is there a place that has the whole building baselines that I missed in the October 22 report? Because I don't see that. I also don't see, sorry, let me turn the page, sorry.
Michelle,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, because you've given him a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I probably
I'm
can't
gonna-
remember half of them. So
Yeah.
do you want to just let him
Yep.
get through a little more of the
Thank you.
report? And then,
Yeah, because I don't want to butt in again. And so
no,
those
but
are,
we'll get
Yeah.
through the report
Yeah.
and then just keep that one.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Shel. Go ahead. Heath.
There's a lot in there.
Yeah.
sorry, I was
I'll
relying on
cover some of
Stephanie
the
to put
bigger
me back on
points
track.
Okay.
That I feel comfortable with. Number one is, as you pointed out, it is mid-year, and we do expect these percentages in the spring, that third bar graph, to see yet again that progression of kids, more kids at grade level, less kids at intervention levels. I'm going to get to a part in the report where we start talking about differentiation of instruction for struggling learners as well as those enrichment kids. One of the misconceptions that I would put out there, I'm not sure that this is what you meant, but just because a student's a high performer doesn't mean that we have lower expectations for their growth. So if we have a student that's at above grade level, we are expecting to provide instruction and exposure to content that's going to help that student grow just as much as a student who's at grade level or who's below grade level. So that I agree with the sauce. It's in here. I'll get to that part of it. With regard to overall, let me just say this. iReady has built-in data reporting systems. So we can walk into any year, any administration, and see whole building data, grade level data, classroom teacher data, individual student data. We can pull that in any way, shape, or form. It sounds like it wasn't in the October report, but the blue bars in these graphs on pages 3 and 4 are that data. It's the baseline data from the fall that may or may not have been in your October report. I'm not sure.
Okay, thanks.
The 99 versus 101 versus 100, it's one of those things when you pull up the data report, it does its own little calculation of round up, round down, and that kind of thing, and that's what you get. So I'm whatever. So to get back on track, I just wanted to share the cohort data with you so that you can see that in all cases but one, we're staying the same or improving in reading and math across the board. So again, in reading, our second and fifth, our last year's second, now third, and last year's fourth, now fifth, have increased significantly, 10 percentage points, 11 percentage points, 23 percentage points in reading. We did go down in fourth grade. Stay tuned on that one. I don't think that's going to be the case in the spring. In math, our second to third stayed the same at 0% increase or decrease. They went up in fourth, unlike reading 26 percentage points, and they went up in fifth grade in math by 12 percentage points. So our cohort data is increasing. As they go through our grade levels, they are improving with regard to performing at grade level, at or above grade level. I'm going to move on from the whole building data, and I'm going to jump into the grade level data. So I'm now on pages 5 and 6, looking at grade 3. So if you look at grade 3 in reading, you can see that 72% are demonstrating that they're achieving at or above grade level. This is up from 55% in the fall. Back to Shelley's point, 9% of these students are performing at significant intervention levels, meaning 2 and 3 grade levels below, but that's down from 19%. I anticipate both of those numbers are going to go in the right direction. And we have 55% of our students at this point in time meeting their typical growth, 27% meeting their stretch growth in reading. Down at the bottom, you can see the areas of focus that we're going to be working on in third grade. You know, we're going to be looking at helping students develop perspective taking, the author's perspective, their own perspective of characters, point of view. Moving to grade 3 math. You can see the bar graph for yourself. 45% of students are now demonstrating that they achieve at or above grade level. That's up from 10. 12% are performing at significant intervention levels. That's down from 27. And we've got 30% of our students already meeting typical growth, 6% meeting stretch growth. In math, I'm sorry, did I just give you a reading? I just gave you the math score, sorry, page 6. Yep. So moving to grade 4, sorry about that. Grade 4 in reading, 61% students are demonstrating grade level, up from 37, 5% are performing below, down from 10, 54% are meeting growth targets. Math, 55%, students are demonstrating that they're achieving at or above. We're down to 7% performing at significant intervention levels, and 30% are meeting typical growth. I'm going through this quickly because you can read the numbers for yourself, et cetera. So if you want me to slow down or you want to pause on any of it, great. Grade 5, you'll see 67% students are already achieving a grade level in reading, 10% still at significant intervention, and 62% have met targeted growth. 32% there have met stretch growth. Fifth grade math, 65% are demonstrating at grade level, 6% intervention, 44% meeting growth.
You're in grade 4.
Can I just ask, going back to one of the parents here, is that her son, I think it was her son, was doing very well in math, and he's above the level of the math, and he's learning algebra at home. And so I've just been reading over here that I read is, oh, you can go above the thing and you can go home and look at the tube and learn the next level, and with student or teacher help. Doesn't sound like he's getting student or teacher help, and he's learning algebra around his home, and he feels frustrated that he's above the level. Wait a minute, he's just above the level that you just said, oh, we can handle that. We encourage everybody to be up above the bar, and they fall off a cliff. Personally, they feel like, hey, and then his grades go down. You know, there's a disconnect here.
Yeah, I guess to address this, since it's come up twice now, I'm going to jump over pages 11 and 12. I want to go to the part in the sauce where it's in there. So if you go to page 13 with me for a minute, one of our school improvement plan goals is to implement our support services in an effective and efficient manner. So as what you see here on page 13 is a table. And one of the things that we are fortunate to have developed through efficient scheduling and concerted effort equals desired results is the ability to provide enrichment experiences with a teacher in the areas of reading and math. So it's not about going home and trying to figure out how to do 8th grade algebra in 6th grade. It's about meeting with our math coach 1 or 2 times a week to say, hey, let me introduce you to something. Maybe that's algebra, maybe it's geometry, maybe it's, advanced fractions and decimals. So we are working with students who are capable of handling curriculum and content that's above grade level, in person, small group. And then iReady is meant to be a support. So they then have the tools and the readiness to go on iReady in their pathways. And when a question comes up about 8th grade algebra, oh, Mr. Lucina helped me with that. I think I can figure this out. Or I can't figure this out. I'm going to see Mr. Lucina tomorrow. Maybe you can help me figure out how to do this. So we're providing enrichment experiences in a very creative way to the degree possible. And we're doing that in reading as well. We're taking students who are at above grade level and we're bringing them together, not in the same classroom, but having book talk experiences with literature that's significantly above their grade level. So, when we're talking about support services and we're thinking about reading specialists and math coaches and how can the classroom teacher address some of this stuff, on the right side of the bell curve, we're providing those experiences. The same way on the left side of the bell curve, to Shelley's point, what about those 35% of kids who aren't there yet? That 35% of kids are receiving special education services or early intervention services of some sort. Again, I go back to a third, right? We got a third of our kids who can handle above grade level curriculum. We got a third of it, grade level curriculum is the sweet spot. You got a third of them that need some type of individualized support to help them get there. One of the things that's really fun to watch when you look at our iReady data, the growth results are high and they're equal across that continuum. Our lower achieving kids are making high levels of growth the same way our at grade level kids are, the same way our enrichment kids are. So this table right here, where it talks about the number of enrichment kids, it also talks about the number of kids who are receiving SRBI services. And it talks
What
about the
table,
kids who
Heath? What table are you talking about?
Page
Page
13.
Oh, 13. Okay,
Yep, so
thank
on
you.
Page 13.
Okay.
So it's talking about how we're servicing kids, and if they need more services, do we move them to more intense services? If they're ready to fly, do we dismiss them or give them less services? This is a very important part of our ability to do what we're doing on these iReady assessments. So I hope I came back and answered some of your questions.
You did answer some of the intervention ones.
your
I would
recent
just say, I wouldn't consider 40 or 50% to be a third. It looks like a skewed bell curve, but we'll see what your intervention accomplishes. It just bothers me when, we've got 3 or 4% and they start out that way in kindergarten and, through whatever best efforts, there they are years later. So that's the only reason I bring that up. And the percent
Preaching to
below.
the choir. I'm trying to figure out how to address the needs of all kids, across the continuum. If I can go back to page 11 now. You've seen bits and pieces in newspapers or Dr. Miller's giving you some information with regard to our most recent SBAC results, which students took the SBAC last spring, and they reinstituted this concept of school performance index. And basically, they pull a whole bunch of data in a bunch of different ways to determine how schools are doing in comparison to other schools. So there's really 6 things that are important when you think about that. Number 1 is what category is a school in? And categories are based upon if you receive 85 out of 100 points, the state looks at you and says, you're doing an awesome job, you're category 1. If it's between, I think, 60 and 85, the state looks at you and says, you're doing a great job, but you still got a little room to go, you're category 2. And then it goes down there from 3 to 4 to 5. We're category 2. We missed category 1 by 0.7, 84.3.
And that's not district, that's per school.
That's per school.
Okay, thank you.
So that's the first thing to think about. The second thing to think about is the state takes your achievement numbers. So they look at science, reading, and math, and they look at them for all of the students in your school. So science, reading, and math. So there's three different numbers. And then they say, okay, well, what about your high needs students? And high needs students are your special education population, your free and reduced lunch population, and your English language learner population. How are they doing? Because if your whole population is doing significantly better than your high needs population, you're not servicing kids to the degree that you should be. So it adds all that together in some sort of formula, and it says across all content areas, across all these groups, how are you doing compared to other schools in the state? Our number on that was in the top 10% of schools in the state.
Good job.
Right, so that's number 2. The other 4 are not achievement categories, they're growth categories. And what they're looking for there is, if we look at the average growth across your school, right? We took all 350 kids and we determined what percentage of growth on average that they met. So one kid met 100% of their growth, one kid made 80% of their growth, one student made 120% of their growth, the average is 100. If it was 80, 90, and 100, the average is 90. For the whole school growth in math, top 10%. Take that high needs group that I described, special ed, free and reduced lunch, and English language learners, growth for that group in math, top 10%. Growth for that group in reading, top 10%. Anybody want to venture to guess why we didn't get the one category, high growth reading for all students? 0.26 of 1%. There's a lot of good news in there. And I guess back to somebody's point, I think Stephanie, it was, how do we compare and look at iReady data? Is it a predictor or is there a correlation with SBAC data? I don't have a scientific answer for you on that, but what I can tell you is that our iReady results this winter in comparison to last winter are on par with or better than. So that's what I have to go on at this point in time. We're going to get to do a second comparison this spring when we administer the SBAC again and we administer iReady again. And over the course of maybe 2 more years, we'll have a solid handle on, does this have a predictive value, et cetera. But all I can tell you right now, I'm not touching the money. I'm not going to be here to touch the money, but we're on track to have another reasonable year when we're comparing ourselves to state standards. And I know how you feel about state expectations. You can see on page 12 some of the things that I feel that contributed to that. And it goes back to some of the stuff we already talked about. It's about the differentiation of instruction, the enrichment, the special ed, the early intervention, the schedules, the pacing. It's all that whole ball of wax. So to try to put your finger on, oh, that works, or that's what made it happen, or that's what, no, it's not. It's really the collective implementation of all that stuff. And I'll be the first one to tell you. Growth mindset, continuous improvement. That's what we're all about. We still have room to grow. But we also need to keep doing the things that we think are working well.
Would you be able to send to Stephanie so that we can all look at it, the baseline? The information that you said, pointed out wasn't probably in the October 2022 baselines that you drew upon for your whole building aggregate scores, and maybe send that over if that's all right with you, Stephanie.
Yeah, I can take a printout right from iReady, so you know that I'm not.
Yeah, no, I know, yeah.
Making things up, okay?
Yep. That'd be great. Like I said, I just remain concerned about the,
I can do that.
I mean, sometimes it's 45 or more students, 1 to 3 grade levels below.
Okay, I'll get that too. Hey, I just wanted to, on page 11, there was one other part of goal 1 that's data driven, and it has to do with absenteeism. We had 24 students who were considered chronically absent, which means they were absent more than 10% of the school year, or 18 days last year. So we missed that checkbox on the school performance index to the degree that we could. The state has an expectation it'll be less than 5%, so we were at like 7%. Remember I was telling you about category 1, we missed it by 0.7. That's
Attendance.
that's where that it existed other places, but last year was the first year in my career that we ever didn't meet the less than 5% goal. So it just tells you the times that we're in coming out of pandemic, and actually right now we're struggling even more because now it's not only COVID, it's common colds and flus and all that kind of stuff. So we've got a lot of legit other absences besides just COVID absences. So chronic
again-
absenteeism is something that we're trying to put a big dent in, but you have to be conscientious of, do you really want kids coming to school sick? You know, so it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I would assume that chronic absenteeism is above and beyond. I mean, kids have been getting sick since kids have been on earth. So, you know, it's we don't want kids coming in sick, but it's the kids that then, just don't feel like coming in, or the parents feel like keeping them home. And that's where you go from normal absenteeism to,
Right.
To an issue. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm just gonna finish up last page 14. Nothing rocket science to write home about here. We're on track with regard to staff evaluations. Staff are engaged in what we're calling instructional rounds, where they're actually going into each other's classrooms and providing affirmations and I wonder statements. And most teachers are going up a grade level or down a grade level to kind of see what's before and after. So that's been going well. Communication, the Hawk Talk, you see that in the OPSE news probably every weekend. So we're trying to keep those lines of communication open. And then the final one is with regard to, during the pandemic, it was a lot about the emotional well-being of staff and students, et cetera. There was some permissiveness, if I can use that word, that went along with that. So we've returned to the PBIS Positive Behavior Intervention Support Program to reward and support positive behaviors as opposed to the emotional element of things, in addition to the social interaction of things. So we're using a combination, and we're seeing the dividends in the sense that our student behaviors, expected versus unexpected, are coming back more into alignment that we saw before the pandemic. Great, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. Were there any other questions for Heath in regard to this report?
I just want to say congratulations on the distinction. I mean, it is an accomplishment, and it's your accomplishment, it's your team's accomplishment. So
yeah, one of the things I hope that people pick up on is it's really a K-5 endeavor. We get kids coming in that are highly capable, so we're very appreciative of our friends down the street. It's also been supported with various initiatives and funding and resources and patience and understanding of central office, the Board of Education. So this is our recognition, and I see it as a pivot point for our district to get back on track with regard to focusing on what we've always wanted to focus on, which is student growth and achievement. So
Absolutely.
kudos to everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, Heath.
Thank you.
Because then you
Hang
can
on a
say all
second.
that
She's gonna have the microphone.
plus a bag of chips.
So
Right.
it's actually very nice to have to go second.
Yes.
So if you turn to page 2, we do start with our school student enrollment. As you can see, we've been very consistent from September through February. We went from 400 to 402, but as you can see, some of the grade levels, they have either increased, decreased. Our biggest increase overall right now is currently in preschool. As you know, we accept birth to 3 students. So anytime a child is at that age where they're exiting out of birth to 3, it is our district's responsibility to then evaluate and or accept the students into our preschool program. So that's our biggest change. So overall, it's been a pretty steady enrollment thus far. Our student activity report, certainly it's self-explanatory. Our one main deposit was from PTO. They are funding Amazing Hero Art. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that, where we have Rob Surratt come. He is world renowned. He comes in, he does a wonderful presentation, and he does this painting where the kids are just amazed, staff are amazed. We actually had him here a few years ago with PTO for families to come, and he's just outstanding. Don't have the exact date, but I do encourage if anyone happens to be home and they want to come see the show, it really is amazing. So that's really exciting. So that's our basically our student activity report. QFS overall update, what's going well. I did include from our November report, just so you have it in one place. Those are student and staff successes and accomplishments that I had actually staff involvement in. So that was from November. So that was reported out to you last time. But if you turn to page 4, staff had participation in writing some of their successes and accomplishments that they felt were really important to share with all of you. And again, you can certainly read all of them, but there's lots of wonderful things, bringing the community together, bringing families and parents back into our school buildings. We've been, obviously the past several years, we have not had that. So it's nice to have everyone back into the building and things are quote back to normal. Our biggest, most recent awesome opportunity was to do the Oxford PTO, which I feel I should mention to all of you. We had our PTO Glow Run, all 3 schools, K through 8, with an outstanding profit of $55,090. So kudos to
That's
everyone
amazing.
that participated, everyone, Dr. Miller who brought it on, PTO, and all of you. Thank you for your support. That's huge. Shocking. We thought it was 15,000. That was our ultimate goal. And it just kept growing and
Awesome.
growing and growing. Families reached out. We went for, I think it was 35 different states, 3 countries. We had 82% registration participation, and then 74% of our families K-3 actually donated in some way, but all students just were participating, involved. It was a wonderful week, and the Glow Run, I'm not sure if my staff or if the students had more fun, but it was remarkable, remarkable. So we were really happy to participate in that, and it's such a huge success for the community, just to bring everybody together. So it was really outstanding. So thank you to all that were involved.
Rach, I just have a quick question. For the SEL lessons in all
Yes.
2nd grade classrooms, it says that the social worker is doing that.
Yes.
Where are these lessons coming from? Is it part of a curriculum? Is it?
Some of them are just some ruler activities. There
Okay.
has been a program called Gizmo that was adopted by the special ed department called Gizmo, just so you're aware of that. But others are just regular SEL lessons that the classroom teacher and the school social worker are working through. Coping strategies, things that you can do if you're upset. What are some strategies you can use? There's some cool down centers in some of the classrooms.
Cool.
Just a
Oh, cool
variety
down
of-
centers.
Yeah, just a variety of strategies. But one of the programs is called Gizmo, and that was purchased by the special ed department.
So is that a computer? I assume it's a computer
They're just
program?
activities. It's not computer.
Okay.
It's just. a
So
actual
so
couple
it's,
little activities.
it's kind of self-directed by the
Correct.
social worker
Correct.
in conjunction with the teacher?
Yes. Yes, so the teachers also went through, just got some knowledge and went through, I think it was a 1-day training, just to get an idea of what it is. But it's overseen by the social worker called
Okay.
Gizmo.
And it only 2nd grade classrooms at this point?
Have the Gizmo training, yes, but the social worker is going into some 1st grade classrooms, working on coping strategies and just delivering some social emotional activity lessons in
Okay,
the classroom. And the
Okay.
teachers obviously present as well.
right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Some upcoming events. So this current week is our February Fun Week. So yesterday was PJ Day, so we did have an incentive. If you met Booster-thon, 50% registration, the students would be able to participate in PJ Day. So that was yesterday. Today was Pink Red Love for Live. So for our little friend at Quaker Farms, we donated $1, and we raised today, just at Quaker alone, we raised $562. We
Wow.
partnered with Great Oak Middle School. They had asked us to join in. We got approval from Dr. Miller. So just at Quaker, we raised $562 for
Great.
it. And actually the money is going to something called Circle of Care. It's a program that actually will pay for any outstanding bills that might take place. The month that Liv was in the hospital, that this company actually, or this program actually paid for the family's 1st month mortgage while she was in the
Wonderful.
hospital. So it's a wonderful program. So that was exciting. Tomorrow we have our game day, which is kids get to bring board games to school and we get to play whole school bingo. And that was also an incentive for the Booster-thon, depending on the participation. So that was an overarching, we met that goal. We got to have a big school-wide activity. So we chose game day, and kids were like, can we bring electronics? And that was clearly a no in my letter. So they're actually going to participate in some type of a board game, and then we're going to do a whole school bingo. So that's super exciting. Thursday, we have one of our character ed assemblies for the month of February, focusing on kindness. And Friday, again, we're doing, all students and staff are invited to wear blue, called Sea of Blue for the Burns family. So obviously, as you know, there was the devastating fire in Oxford, and it's part of that community partnership. We really wanted to do something along with that. It was actually a parent's idea. We could do something. We came up with the Sea of Blue for the Burns family, and we are doing that on Friday. So
Okay.
with approval from Dr. Miller, that's going to go off on Friday. So we're looking forward to those fun activities. Then you can just see some of the other upcoming events, including our district-wide art show, conferences, book week, a bunch of field trips, all of our end of the year activities. So again, looking back and saying, wow, we didn't get to do half of these things over the past several years. So this is really, really exciting. And it's a celebration. Some areas of growth that we had mentioned, obviously they're listed. Attendance issues, I'll get into more of that in a little while. Some behavioral issues, we're definitely seeing an influx of behavioral issues. Probably the two most unstructured times, which is the bus and recess. So obviously we're working on that. School safety, I know that was mentioned. So, school safety staff obviously are looking for some of that training. Again, we're looking.
Are you talking about Alice training? or-
Alice training?
Okay.
The science of reading and the iReady and the use of data. So those are just
But
some
can
areas.
I also, for the Alice training, they're looking for a refresher course because everybody should have been trained. I don't know what happens after you're trained with Alice. Do they have then a
They're- they need to
review?
be recertified. So I believe that all staff certifications have lapsed. So we need that recert. It's a recert. I believe.
Okay, and does that usually happen on like a PD day or how could?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so,
So we're just looking for, I believe staff are just looking to get that training updated. And then again, the new staff, I'm not sure if they have been fully trained. I was not aware if new
Yeah,
staff have been.
Dr. Miller said that he did it in orientation, but yeah, I don't know about the follow-up.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Looking at the iReady results, I think we talked a lot about that, so I don't want to spend an enormous amount of time. He did such a fabulous job explaining all of that. The numbers are here. They look at it, obviously the graphs are exactly like he's, obviously our numbers are certainly different. Just remember that kindergartners are not part of the overall yet, because again, the kindergartners are just taking their tests. This is their first time, whereas other students in first and second grade, they have taken their assessments back in September, October. So looking at QFS reading, full building growth and achievement, you can see obviously the graphs for 2 grade levels below, 1 grade level early on mid. 65% of our students are demonstrating that they're achieving at or above grade level, and this is up from 30% in the fall. This is not including our kindergartners. 2% of students are performing at a significant interventional level. You can certainly look at the cohort comparisons at the bottom. And then the same graphs are there for math as well. For whole building math, 45% of students are demonstrating that they're achieving at or above grade level. This is up from 10% in the fall. 2% of our students are performing at a significant intervention level, which is 2 grade levels below, which is down from 14% in the fall as well.
Now, I know the classrooms have changed
Yes.
in the kind of teaching style and Chromebooks. I would, because the iReady is on the Chromebook, right?
Correct.
And I would assume that there's a curve with kids. I mean, I've been in kindergarten, first grade classrooms when they've tried to do this. So I'm not saying your numbers aren't valid, but I'm saying that it's a little skewed at that
Mhm.
age level to try to get, not really.
100%.
I mean, is it recommended that kids at that age should be tested in that way, or the old fashioned way? I think, where you sit down and you talk to the child and have the child read and you
Well, I
maybe
think
do
that's-
running records or
that's
something.
That very valid point, Stephanie. Like, that is huge. This is one assessment. This is one snapshot in time of a life of a kindergartner, first and second grader. Teachers are doing what you just said. So teachers are sitting one-on-one with a child and they're doing phonological and phonemic awareness activities where they're showing every letter of the alphabet. They're
Right.
showing every number. They're showing every color. They're making the sound. So you see a letter B, what sound does that make? They're doing that.
Right.
It's not reflected here. This is iReady, but it's one snapshot in time. So they are doing exactly what you're saying. because that's what good teaching is. This is one little piece of data that certainly sometimes we're putting too many of our eggs in this one basket, especially for our little ones. I've seen them, they're just doing this on the computer.
Of course, of course.
And we do have touch screens, which is a good thing because usually they were using the mouse or they weren't using the mouse and they thought it was a touch screen. And that was wow.
So my question is, has there been any study, or is this across the educational landscape that kids in K1 and 2 are getting these types of assessments? And maybe there's a valid that it could build their confidence in using that. I don't know.
We have seen that students are becoming more, as they're taking the tests and as each year goes on, so kindergarten, they just seem to be able to become better test takers on the computer. They're able to manipulate it better. We have seen a great increase of kids using the touch, because with kindergartners using the mouse, that to me, those scores were really, really skewed.
Right.
Teachers are also looking at the timepiece. So if a child's doing it in 10 seconds, the teacher's getting a flag on the computer like, wow, this child, it's like a yellow flag that comes up and says the child did it in a time that there's no way that's accurate.
Right.
So they're looking at that. So again, is it recommended? I mean, it was recommended that kindergartners do not take it in September. There are some school districts where kindergartners are taking it in September, October. We felt that was not valid at all. Like that, to us, that's just not acceptable for a 4-year-old who's trying to get acclimated to school, to routines, to all that good stuff. Now it's going to take a test on the computer. So we did push it out, and we do obviously it in January.
And so then do you have other means of data points?
Yes.
So those are internal.
Correct. So we're using all of our curriculum-based assessments. We're using, like I said, the phonological assessments where teachers are literally one-on-one. We're using all of our trick word assessments. We're using Fundations. So after every unit in Fundations, children are being assessed.
Right.
There's an assessment after every Fundations unit. There's an assessment after our reading units.
Oh yeah, I'm not questioning whether you assess kids. I know you do.
But there's all those pieces that make a bigger puzzle.
Right. I'm just saying it would almost seem like those, if those can be coordinated, it would probably be more meaningful data
And I think
at your level.
Sure, and I think teachers really focus on that specific data. So
Yeah.
they have their data sheets, and I think that's where they're really looking at. So if a child's bombing out and it's like 2 grade levels below, but they're looking at, wow, look at all their foundation scores. They're readers.
Right.
Why are they getting 2 grade levels below?
Right.
When in my opinion, no, they're reading on grade levels. So there's
Right.
sometimes that discrepancy when you say like, the iReady doesn't necessarily match up with the academic performance that they're seeing.
Right.
My daughter's a straight A student, but I get her SBAC scores and I'm like, what is that? Like, they're not aligning necessarily.
Right.
So I think that that's a huge part of looking at data across, many different assessment pieces.
Okay. Thank you.
So going just basically to our kindergarten, they did take the assessment for the first time the week of January 23rd. As you can see, we have one data point, which is obviously the winter, 1 grade level below, early on, mid or above, and then obviously all the different domains. We'll read all of those specific numbers to you. What was interesting is when we compared focus areas, like what's the lowest scoring focus area? They were very similar to this time last year, and that's because some of the skills we haven't even introduced. So in kindergarten, we're not really necessarily introducing the EDS, re, on, pre, full, and we're not introducing those things yet. So of course, they're going to score a little bit lower. And that seemed to be consistent across all grade levels. When we're looking at the area that necessarily wasn't the poorest or the worst area, it might have the lowest scoring, but it wasn't even that considered, I want to say bad, it's not the best word. It just was an area that we haven't really had our focus yet. We haven't really done that piece yet. So of course, it's going to come out in the lower end. Math kindergarten, again, 40%, 1 grade level below, early on, 22, mid or above is at 38. We're expecting to see those numbers obviously increase by the end of the school year. And then it's broken down by domains. Reading, same thing. 56% of our students were demonstrating that they're achieving at or above grade level. This was up from 25% in the fall. 3% of our students are performing at significant intervention levels. This is down from 4%. And 34% of our students met their end of the year typical growth, and 17% have met their end of the year stretch growth that was for reading for first grade. In regards to math, 32% of our students were demonstrating they're achieving at or above grade level. This was up from 11% in the fall. 3% of our students were performing at significant intervention levels. This was down from 9% in the fall. And 24% of our students already met their end of the year typical growth goal, and 9% of students have met their end of the year stretch growth goal. Moving on to pages 13 and 14, that talks about our reading achievement for second grade. 69% of students demonstrated they're achieving at or above grade level. This was up from 36% in the fall. 4% of students are performing at significant intervention levels. This is down from 8% in the fall, with 43% of students who have met their end of the year typical growth goal, and 24% have met their end of the year stretch growth. And then finally, for math, 48% of our students demonstrated they're achieving at or above. This was up from 9% of students in the fall, so we saw a significant increase there. 3% of students are performing at significant intervention levels. This is down from 20% in the fall.
Okay, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
And I'm really not nitpicking your
No, it's
reading,
okay.
but the numbers that you're saying are not the numbers that I'm reading on here. I mean, they're just slightly off. So, and
Total,
yeah, I mean, I'm reading here, math achievement, 4% of students are performing at significant interventions level. This is down from 19% in the fall. And I just, unless I'm not following you on the
What
right.
page are you on, just to
Me?
confirm?
I'm on
That might
page
just be a typo.
15. I'm on 15. What are you on, Rachel?
I'm at 15.
Yeah. So do you see,
48% of students
Again,
are
I-
achieving at or above. The 48% of students?
right? And
at or
then,
above?
yeah, then the next bullet says 4% of students, right?
Yeah, I gave you a new copy.
It's doing.
Oh,
It was a
this is,
typo in one of the numbers.
well,
Yes.
someone should tell me that, because I'm figuring, why do I have
Yeah,
this
no.
when I have it right here?
Yeah.
All right.
There was a little typo in the numbers and I handed them out. and I picked up. I said,
Gotcha.
There was a typo in one of those things. I had to make a new copy.
Well, you,
Simple
Yeah.
explanation.
yes, I thought this is just a nice gesture.
Sorry,
Gotcha.
that was my fault. I had told
But
Deb.
I
didn't tell
just,
anybody else.
I would just like it
We were just
noted
making
that I
sure
am
that-
really listening to you,
Thank you,
obviously,
Stephanie. Thank you.
because I noticed that. So go
I
ahead.
noticed that. I'm like, and I've looked at this many, many times and I'm like, how did I not notice that? And then tonight of all times, I'm like, that number's wrong.
Okay.
Rachel,
you.
that was the quiz to make sure we were paying.
Thank you.
That's
yes.
I
See,
won.
Deb didn't want to share that info. Just kidding.
Okay,
Thanks, Stephanie.
go ahead. You're welcome. Sorry.
And then just looking at overall progress towards our district goals, again, nothing completely overwhelming, outstanding, but again, chronic absenteeism, when I look at that, we have 21% of our students who currently have 9 or more absences. So they're missing 10% of the school year. So if you look at that, out of 402 students, that's 88 students who have 10 or more absences. So we did meet, admins did meet with Dr. Miller in January, just to review like what's going on. And I literally went through every single child's attendance. And there were, as of January 18th, there were 64 students who had at least 2 or more vacation days. So the amount of people that are children that are going out on vacation, which again, parents have the right to do that. But when we look at our attendance and say, what is the school doing? Well, 64 students have 2 or more vacation days. Some children have 14, 15, 16 vacation days. That's huge. That is huge. So again,
3
just
weeks
trying-
of school.
This week alone, we have 6 kids that are on vacation in Florida. So again, and that's the parent's choice. But again, when we look at our numbers and say, what are we doing? You know, the things that we are doing is we hold monthly attendance meetings with the team, school nurse, social worker, myself, classroom teacher. The school social worker is constantly reaching out to families. Letters are generated. I think last time I sent out 47 letters last month, just to say you're approaching the 9 and these are the expectations. If you do read my newsletter, like the attendance policy, it's all right there. We have to hold family meetings, parent meetings, PPTs. We're having those constantly, which again is taking teachers out of the classroom to have these meetings. And we try to do it either before or after school, but we certainly want to accommodate a parent's schedule because it's really important to get them in. Classroom teachers are reaching out. Our attendance is documented in PowerSchool. We're documenting all of the reasons. So when we're looking at, reasons why we don't want children at Quaker that are sick, we don't want them here. And again, the sickness, parents are really trying to be very conscientious of not sending their child who is sneezing and coughing to school, where maybe 3 years ago, they might have sent them to school if they were coughing. Don't get me wrong, they still are, but it does seem like parents are really trying to be, just not spread the germs. School nurses reaching out to families. We're doing the robocalls, which has been great. Just as a reminder to parents, you need to call, your child's been out, etc. And I always put in our newsletter, like just notifying parents of like upcoming days off. So if you want to plan something, here are the days off. utilize those. So there's a lot that's going on behind the scenes. But again, if a family is going to go on vacation, they're not, I have no say. I can't say not to, but I just found that to be very interesting that 64 students have had 2 or more vacation days. And that we're at 21% of students who have 9 or more absences, and we're only in February. Again, we talked a lot about the iReady. We do the 30 minutes for ELA and math. We use it as a center. So you walk into a classroom, you're seeing so much going on. You have the classroom teacher who is seeing 3 or 4 groups. They're differentiating that instruction too. So Shelley, to your point, there was 4 different groups going on. They're flexible groupings, they're skill groups. They're using guided reading. They're using decodable text. They're using whatever skill that they might have a difficulty, and they're grouping kids. And there's a menu, and students are just, every 20 minutes, the little bell rings every 30 minutes, and they're moving to the next center. And these are little ones that are following the menu on the board. They know exactly what center to go to. And there's a lot of differentiating going on. There's so much going on during, say, an hour time block that it really is, if you haven't seen it, it really is mind-boggling. Differentiating, meeting the needs of our students who might be experiencing some difficulty, enrichment. So there are those kids, that those higher kids, they need to get that differentiation because they need to maybe read an accelerated book or a chapter book. And teachers are doing that just so easily. It just comes so naturally to them. And while that's going on, there's different centers. Maybe a snack is one of the centers where they're eating their snack time at the center. And then they move on to the iReady, and they're opening up their Chromebook, and they're excited about getting on it. It really is fun. It's not for our little ones. I can't speak to the older grades, but this is exciting because they get to do a little iReady. Then there's a game, and they want to get to that game part. So it's really exciting, and it's just kind of embedded into their day. And they see it as something exciting and fun. So we really try to make it that way for the kids. And I just think it gives them so much more experience in manipulating that computer. So are we really testing kids based on what they know and not just accidentally clicking something and they're getting it wrong? They're getting that experience of using their Chromebook and using it well. Let's see. Our SRBI, I will get back to that in 1 minute. Again, as Keith mentioned, evaluation and feedback process, we are on par with our goal settings, our observations are taking place, review of practices are taking place. Instructional rounds, we just completed our 2nd round of instructional rounds last week, which really focuses on the 5 attributes, which is critical thinker, collaborative learner, empowered learner, productive citizen, and effective communicator. Teachers are identifying one of the attributes, they're collecting evidence from their 10-minute visit, writing an affirmation statement, and providing an I wonder statement, which has been very successful thus far. Our newsletter, it goes out weekly as part of the district. Emails are constantly being sent out to families all the time. I'm also on every classroom teacher's distribution list, so it just keeps me in the know as to what teachers are sending out. There's that open door policy, which is regularly practiced by all staff. Staff can come in, families can come in. They know that I'm easily available at any point in time. Lots of activities that are supporting different causes and charities, especially throughout the town. And again, we focused a lot on our STAR assembly, STAR behavior, bringing that back. We revised our school charter. We created classroom charters. Our monthly character ed assemblies have been brought back, which is great.
Rachel,
Yes.
Nicole has a question.
Sure, sorry.
Hi, at the beginning of the year, there was some clapback about the behavior charts, the clip up, clip down. Where did we end up with that? Did the procedure change? Did it stay exactly the same? Did things quiet
We
down?
did some minor tweaks, but again, I had one parent that reached out to me that was very positive about the chart. I had never received any parent communication regarding that. So we did make some tweaks, so it's not as obvious to the whole class. But again, I hadn't heard from one parent. If I hadn't gotten word that it was on social media, I would never have known. So we haven't had any fallback from that. So, but we did make a few tweaks. So it's not publicly recognized. It's more the teacher might be talking to the child more on a personal level. So it's not this whole big thing.
So I think
That's
what Nicole's
put
asking
on.
though, do you have the chart? Are the charts still, is it a chart with kids' names that,
It's kind of more in a discreet place,
okay.
not so visible, but it's there for teachers just to keep track of. But teachers were told to keep it less visible, so it's not just publicly out there. Our SRBI update, again, you can read the numbers. Students in our SRBI, the numbers of tier 2, tier 3, those students that have exited from SRB as of December, students that moved from tier 2 to tier 3, students that have been referred to special ed as of December's date. Same for math, the numbers of tier 2 and tier 3, those who exited, those who might have moved from tier 2 to 3, and those who might have been referred to special ed. Our tutors are being used less as substitutes. I'm not saying that that has completely stopped, but it definitely has been less over time. We still are using them as needed, but we have hired most recently, probably about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, we did hire a building substitute. I know that we had been looking, but unfortunately there weren't any applicants, but we did find one that's phenomenal. So we're super excited to have her here as well. So that was our newest hire. Again, lots of positive things to report on, along with obviously, as he said, there's always continued areas of improvement. As staff, we always want to improve our practice. That's our ultimate goal, to be the best that we can for our students. But again, I just want to think that the Quaker Farm School staff is truly outstanding. They do amazing things for our students. And thank you for your support, because we couldn't do those amazing things without the support of all of you. So thank you, and thank you to my staff.
Thank you, Rachel. Go ahead, Mike.
So I have something positive to share.
Yay.
For leading into the Glow Run, I do drop off. So I drop off my daughter every day, and they had music. The people, the staff, teachers, they were dancing. The kids are dancing. I don't know who the gentleman was that was playing the music. High energy. And I tell you, it was probably the best week for my kid for academically. It was like, I hit the day and it was like on a high.
Thank you.
So-
It was wonderful. They were truly outstanding. And they
Maybe
were
some-
here for over 6 days. They
Yeah.
were in, they utilized the office conference room next to my office. And the amount of excitement and just, they were super organized and super fun. I came into work and both myself and my 2 secretaries, they brought us flowers and coffee and a hot chocolate, because they knew I liked hot. I mean, I don't even know how they knew that, because I don't drink coffee. Like, that was on my desk. They were truly outstanding. And that just continued throughout the entire day.
That's great.
So it was wonderful.
Maybe we can pick up some of that energy and extend it.
Yeah.
You know, when you see kids excited like that, and that's all it
Yes.
takes is
Yes.
a little bit of music and a little bit of, having some fun. I think that,
You should have. seen the glow
sometimes we
run.
get so serious. Yeah. And
was
sometimes,
so
you put your head down and you're so serious in what you have to do, but sometimes you just need to enjoy
Yeah.
your job and enjoy your kids.
Yes.
I have to say that was the good part of social media, was being able to see the kids
Right.
participate and dance in the videos and things like that. So that was a nice part of
And I think
what
it
we've seen on
also-
social media.
It also
Right.
boosted staff too. Like, they were
Absolutely.
so excited, and they got called in. Like, it was almost like the Olympics. Like, they got called in my classroom, and they all had flags and they had names. So like, one of the classroom teachers, her last name is LaRock, and it was called the La Rockers, and she came running with the flag. And that happened with every classroom, where
That's-
they all got announced. They got to run through the tunnel. So it was so fun. And I think staff also needed just that. quote
Yeah,
boost.
absolutely.
And thank
Any
you
other
guys.
questions for?
I just wanted to say, thank you guys for doing all you did for that and making it successful. So I know the PTO is very appreciative, and it came from an idea of a parent that came from a different school district, and it just fell into place. So thank you guys for doing
Nice
all you
job,
did.
Very welcome.
everyone.
We're hoping that they'll bring it back next year.
Oh,
because it
I would,
was
at
really,
that
really
price, I think it will be
Yeah.
back.
Go
We're
for
talking
it.
about a March date, so.
Yeah.
Anybody else have questions for
Just-
either Keith or Rachel?
Quick question.
You're not off the
and
seat
a
yet.
plug. Yeah, no, it's okay. So I should have opened with this. I do want to thank you. The fact that we're getting regular data reports is very much appreciated. I know it's just one more job for you guys to do, but I also appreciate Stephanie's comment on the little ones. How much is testing artifact? And if you guys ever want to throw other data in here that represents some more balance, please feel free to do it. And then my last question after the thank you is this. My background, everybody, but when I looked at this, and again, it's one data point, but one of the things that I noticed is that on this test anyway, the phonological component was sort of an area of weakness that you then later began to see it be problematic in vocabulary development and ultimately in comprehension development. So my question to all of you, and you can give it thought or whatever, is if you need something from us as a board that is a different kind of support, an additional support, so that, for those kids that maybe whatever we're doing is not working, if you could let us know, because that was another thing I noticed when I tracked it through. I saw over and over again, and then, the impacts on the rest of reading development. Sort of similarly, the numerology kind of things, I don't mean the study of, but, math facts and so forth, same thing impacting. So if there's something that you guys can think of, let us know, please.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shelley. So thank you guys for those reports. I know was much longer than 15 minutes, but we appreciate it. Have a
I think
good,
I had some time over from the last time.
there you go.
Oh,
There you go. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on, if you can pass, oops, I need one. Yeah, place those, you and Vic. So Robert is not going to give his report tonight. I'm doing report of the chair. I'm not there yet.
No, budget discussion is after the linear report.
That's part of the report or chair of designee.
Okay.
It moved.
I don't know when it moved. I printed this right before. What does that mean?
That's what I just said, but it moved.
Okay, well, I'm going to go by the agenda that I have, if that's okay with you guys. Number 6 is the report of the superintendent that we're not doing. Number 7 I have is the report of chair. That's me. And then it says budget discussion. So we'll do it in that order if that's okay.
Yeah.
Why, I don't know why mine's different. And mine's very quick. I just handed you guys out a flyer about the middle school program. They are thrilled. They have a site director and I don't know if it's an assistant site director. They are ready to go March 1st. So we're going to get the word out to parents who are interested. And this flyer gives the web page of what you can do to become a member of the Boys and Girls Club. And, I just noticed on this flyer, which is certainly a great perk, that the kids can attend Shelton or Ansonia Clubhouse on snow days, holidays, and school breaks. So I know especially for working parents, if you don't have something set up, then that could be something that's very problematic. So I'm thrilled and proud to have the Boys and Girls Club be a partner with us with our middle school kids. So that is that. Now I have budget 23-24 discussion. So Mike, do you want to take
So I
that?
could start the process off, but as we've reviewed the budget, it's been presented to us. We've heard from all the centers basically describing what's in their budget, all the highlights, any of the large asks or reductions. The question now comes, are we missing anything that we should be adding? Is there something that we want to remove and any changes? And I could start the process off to go, Stephanie, for the fields, do we have an update of how we want that blended in? Because we had, in the last time the budget was presented, we had it as a possibility. So on the page where we kind of went over the totals and the percent increase, we had both scenarios, but maybe you could give us an update of where that might fall.
Yeah, I'll speak and then Deb can tell me if she could be my backup. But as of right now, we are not putting the fields in our budget.
Correct.
But we probably will be taking over the fields
So July.
as of July 1st. So I don't know if that kind of answers your question, and then probably has more questions.
It does answer the question. I mean, from the pure perspective of the budget impact,
Right,
it gets pulled, so we don't
correct. We don't need to
take
add
that
that.
big hit, but
Correct.
it's something that we probably will have to have more conversations, maybe
Right.
facilities, mixed with finance for future implications. But at the moment, for the budget purposes,
Right, budget neutral.
it's a budget neutral / reduction, depending
Right.
on how you look at it.
Right.
Because we would stay at our original budget number.
So we're staying at our original
Budget number.
budget number.
So then I open the floor to the board. What changes would you like to see made?
Right now, we're at 5.3% or,
4.6.
oh, we went under, we went,
Yeah.
what are we?
4.65.
4.
Without the fields, right? It was 5 point
Right,
something with the fields,
okay,
because we weren't sure whether we had to pull it up or move
Right.
it below.
right. Anybody have any budget questions or, go ahead.
I don't have any questions or changes, but I would like to take this opportunity just to remind people that the Board of Finance is the one who has the ultimate decision, and they will be making these decisions in the next coming weeks. So if you have any concerns, that's
Board of
where,
Finance
that's
meetings.
where to take your stand and make your opinion known at the Board of Finance meetings.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Budget wise? No? Okay, subcommittees. Joe isn't here. I don't. You're on facilities, right, Vic? I don't think we have too much to discuss, right? We're, oh, you're on curriculum. Who's on
What do you
facilities?
think?
Mike?
Facilities?
I don't think there's anything new. I think there's, we're not moving forward in some areas where we were hoping to make some traction.
Right,
I think the operational budget impacts what we can and can't do on
Right.
facilities, especially with the capital improvement projects. I don't think there's any new updates that I'm aware of.
yeah. And the issues that we had with the pipes and the water and everything during that cold spell have been taken care of. And I want to thank Mike D'Agostino, who's our COO now, and he had the custodians going in on that cold weekend to check things. And because of that, they averted, we still had some issues, but they were able to avert major issues. And I guess we're just looking at the fix that needs to be done at the high school. But it's my understanding that the part that is ruined or, buckling or whatever is under the bleachers. So
Okay, so it's not the new floor that we put that beautiful,
at the high
upgraded-
school, I haven't been in to see where it is, but that's what my understanding is, that it's under the bleachers.
I can address it if you want.
Oh, hi, Robert.
I-
Sure. You scared us.
Sorry.
It's like being in Oz.
The damaged part of the gym floor is underneath the bleachers. It did not creep onto the actual playing field on the gyms. We got lucky for the extent of the damage that's there.
Right.
That's great news. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Did you hear anything about that HVAC grant yet?
Robert, the HVAC,
We are still waiting for
Waiting.
the state to award.
the state has to award it. We've done everything, we've put everything in, we've done everything that we need to do. So
So
it's
one,
hurry up and wait.
one thing with that though is that the Eversource grant has to be, the work has to be completed by
Next
December of
2023.
2023. So that's going to be a
It's gonna be tough.
tough thing to, depending on when we hear, because we'd have to make some serious plans between now and then. So.
Deb, curriculum?
Unfortunately, we did not meet. We will get back on track and get a schedule. There were some issues. So,
All right, thank you, Deb. Nicole, policy?
Okay, recognizing that we have a gap in guidance regarding expectations for the appropriate use of personal wireless communications, we came up with this policy. It's down for a first read tonight, so everybody take a look. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out, and hopefully at the next board meeting, we'll have our second read and put it to a vote.
Okay. So the policy, so there's policy and then there's regulations. The regulations, we don't control. We don't control the policy.
Correct.
Okay, just checking on that. Okay, so that's a first read and nothing else with policy, right?
That's it for now.
Thank you guys for going through those policies. Finance, Mike, you kind of already did your thing, right? Nothing else coming up?
Nope.
And the liaison?
Actually, the only thing for finance is that we will be putting it to a vote for the board to adopt our budget for next.
28th.
The 28th. So if something changes between now and then and you'd like to make changes, please reach out and, we'll adopt what we need to.
when's our next finance meeting?
I believe it's the Tuesday, the 21st. So again, you could also show up to the finance subcommittee meeting, but an email would also suffice if you had any changes, updates, or additions.
Okay, great. And liaison, we know, so proud of the PTO for doing that fantastic job.
And next
anything
PTO
else?
meeting is on Thursday.
Okay. Any other liaison reports from anyone?
No, but I have one thing. I didn't want to make this comment until we were done with everything else. Has to do with the testing and the setting up of that. Just one comment. I searched and searched, as I mentioned before, and Deb, maybe you know a place I did not look, but one of the things that I did not find anywhere was a central scheduling of when testing is taking place and what testing. And for example, the iReady.
District, across the district.
Yeah, across the district. Thank you, Steph. So I didn't see, and I know we talked about it being presented earlier in the year. I also did not find any sort of data repository. So I had to kind of look at every single presentation just to figure out when what school was doing what testing. And I only have it, for the winter part. So typically, and again, Deb, if you know that Dorothy has it somewhere, let me know. But typically in a district, you have the calendar and schedule of testing, what time, when. And for instance, in iReady, there are different types. And then a data repository so that when we're comparing apples and oranges and so forth, we are comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges. I couldn't find that anywhere in any of our internal shared drive information. I couldn't find it in any of the board presentations. And I found it very challenging because I was trying really hard to figure it out. And I talked to Steph about it a bit because that's what I used to do for a living. And
Right.
I couldn't find it to compare to. So I really think that, our test administrator needs to make sure we have that calendar of all the testing. We need to have all the results there where they're easily accessible. Things like growth target and so forth that were kind of thrown out. I didn't see anything on that. When we get to the SBAC, we have all of the personal growth targets as the students make. Things that are more like scaled scores. When I reviewed the document that the State Board of Ed had shared with me when we were talking about another thing altogether, and I looked at it and they said that's how they tabulate.
So just to put a bow on it, what you're asking is, and we can have Dorothy as the director of curriculum.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to wait for a meeting. We could just ask her to get, if that
Sure.
might be something that she has, a calendar
Yeah.
of assessments. And then on the agenda, we can put a data repository where that would be. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks so much, Shelley. So without further ado, motion to adjourn at 8:34.
Second.
Okay, let's go. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Motion approved.